Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. In the video I did very recently discussing some of my strength standards for people, I've been accused by quite a few people of setting unrealistic or even arbitrary strength standards. That's what I've actually heard in the past a lot, is that I set arbitrary strength standards. And the truth is, I have been around lifting, and that includes training and coaching other people over the years, for 18 years. I've observed people who are the genetic bottom of the bucket, people who are in the middle, as well as the genetic elite. I've observed how hard people train and what sort of methodologies they use, and I don't think that my strength standards are arbitrary. Now, I will give you a case in point. When we're discussing my novice program, for example, I did a different version of my novice program for a real-life friend of mine. I wrote it for him, and then I modified it a bit and I put it up online later on. But my first run in the real world of testing this on a real person, I took a friend of mine, he was 30 years old, he was a police officer. His training experience had consisted of 5 years before. He had spent 6 months in the gym and then quit. He had never done a squat or a deadlift in his life. He needed to increase his physical fitness so that he could pass his test for his police officer stuff because he was having trouble. He was losing fitness as he was getting older and being untrained. He wanted to lose fat, he wanted to gain muscle, and he wanted his arms to get a lot bigger so that he could have wider shoulders and bigger arms for better officer presence, and he needed to be stronger to help him take people down. These younger guys were now stronger than him now that he was 30 years old. When we started, he could only do 5 push-ups. He was 6 foot tall, weighed 205 pounds, had a little bit of a gut. His max bench press was 75 pounds. His max squat was 95 pounds, and that looked like a good morning. He barely got it up. He could deadlift 120, and when we put 125 pounds on the bar, he couldn't break it off the floor. In 6 months' time, only 6 months, not a full year, he would have gotten a lot stronger, obviously, by the end of the year, and then he went off on his own and trained, and I quit working with him. But I literally trained him for 6 months straight, every session, in person. But under my personal guidance on the foundation of the novice program, in that 6-month time, he went from 13-inch arms to 15-inch arms. He went from 205 pounds down to 185, so I had him on a cutting version with only 3 sets instead of 5. He was benching 195 for sets of 5. He could squat 275 for 5, and he could deadlift 325 for 5 reps. That was 6 months, starting with no strength base, completely average genetics as far as I know, no athletes in his family, no one in his family who looks good or in shape on either side. They're all a little pudgy, none of them work out, none of them play sports. And that was the results he got. And when I'm seeing the results that people are reporting back from me on the novice program, they're not one-offs. I have literally had at least 50 or 60 people have reported to me hitting the numbers that I prescribe within a year, which is I expect them to be squatting 315, so 3 plates aside for 5 sets of 5, and I expect them to pull 405 pounds. That's 4 plates aside on the deadlift for 5 reps. I've had at least 50 people report to me that they've hit the numbers already. These are not outliners. This is the average result. Now, people with really bad genetics are going to be a bit below that, but this is perfectly typical. The same when I talk about someone training 3 to 5 years. Some people thought I said 1 year, but 3 to 5 years, I expect someone to be capable of squatting 400 pounds and capable of deadlifting 500 pounds if they are a healthy male, note healthy, who trains hard, what I consider hard, not what they consider hard, at least 3 days a week for 3 to 5 years. Those are very obtainable, completely drug-free average genetics. And I don't mean that they need to do 1 rep maxes. If anyone understands basic carryover of strength, if you have used proper progressive overload, you're at least average height, and you have squatted consistently, regularly, and at a high frequency for 3 years with progressive overload, and you do only high reps, you should be able to squat 315 for 10 reps. Even if you're a high rep guy, you only do 8 reps and up. You should be able to do that. If you can squat 315 for 10, you can squat 400 for a single. Plug it into any calculator, you'll be over 400 pounds. If you can squat 315 for 10 and you don't deadlift, but you do heavy barbell rows on top of it, I can take you and put you on a deadlift bar, and in 3 to 4 weeks just teaching you the basic movement of the deadlift, you will already have the strength base to pull 500 pounds, and you will be able to pull 500 pounds on top of it. These are realistic strength standards. These are not arbitrary strength standards. These are realistic based upon observations in the real world, and these are perfectly obtainable by the majority of people, well, healthy males at least, in the time frames I've given. And that was rather my point. And I don't even mean people training for powerlifting. If you're training for powerlifting, I expect your numbers to be better than that for obvious reasons due to specificity of training. So I just wanted to clarify those points because there seemed to be some misunderstanding there. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.